What's up, YouTube? Timus here. Here is my throwback segment where I talk about the films that turns 10, 20, 30, and 40 this week. Alright, the film celebrating their 10th anniversary, oh boy, is the Ridley Scott film Exodus, Gods and Kings. Now, this accounts there was really the two films that really showcased that Ridley Scott was going downhill here. But then, of course, a year after he gave us The Martian, so at least he had that coming. But Exodus Gods of Kings was of course again directed by Ridley Scott, starring Christian Bale and Joe Egerton, Sir Ben Kingsley, and it's pretty much where like the Hebrews from Egypt led by Moses. You know, it's forgettable. It's terrible, boring. Really felt like just a remake of the Ten Commandments. Really, so yeah, the actors. I mean, Christian Bale obviously is great. Joe Egerton is terrific, but they were really miscast as these roles badly. So yeah. Anyway, also turning 10 is Paul Thomas Anderson's Inherent Vice. Inherent Vice, out of all Paul Thomas Anderson films, I feel like this one does not get talked about as much. People obviously always talks about Boogie Nights, which obviously rightfully so. Boogie Nights. Let's see. Oh yeah, Punch Drunk Love, which is great. The Master and all. Uh, Magnolia. Well, this isn't as good as those, obviously. It's actually not a bad film, in my opinion. It starred Joaquin Phoenix. You had Owen Wilson, Catherine Waterston, not Julia Ross, Eric Roberts, Reese Witherspoon. It follows Larry Doc Sportello, who is well attention, but fumbling stoner hippie and private investigator. And he is investigating three cases that's linked by the disappearance of his ex girlfriend and her new wealthy boyfriend here. You also had like Josh Brolin was in this. It's actually not a bad film. It's pretty fun, entertaining. Joaquin Phoenix is pretty decent. Some interesting twists and turns here. This is as a classic as let's say Boogie Nights or Magnolia, and it's not as good as those, but it's actually a pretty decent one in my opinion. Now, also turning 10 is the film The Captive, which stars Ryan Reynolds, uh, where detectives find disturbing clues, after like a child disappears and all. The Captive is a really nice little A24 thriller. Ryan Reynolds is pretty decent. It's a shame he's like as much as I love Deadpool and all. It's such a shame he doesn't really do these type of films anymore. Like, he actually has some really cool serious acting chops. Whether you talk about Barry, Mississippi Grind, the guy could do some pretty serious acting chops with stuff like this. But yeah, it's been a while since he's actually done these type of movies before. So it'll be cool seeing him do another H24 film down the line. But who knows? Speaking of Ryan Reynolds, by the way, 20 years is Blade Trinity. There's one blade. There's always gonna be one blade. Oh yeah. Before we got to see Wesley Snipes back as uh Blade for Deadpool and Wolverine. Before that was Blade Trinity, the awful, laughable follow to Blade 2. Directed by David S. Goyer. It's you also had Jessica Biel was in this. It's an awful one. Nothing about it was all that great. Of course, there was like some stuff about Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes not getting along. Even Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes poke fun at that in Deadpool Wolverine, where Deadpool where Billy said, "I never liked you," and Deadpool said, "You never did." So that obviously was a callback to their feud and all. But yeah, the first two Blades are great whether we get the Mahershala Ali one. That's what I say. But yeah, Blade Trinity, who was a stinker. All right, also turning 20 is Phantom of the Opera, directed by the late Joe Schumacher, starring Emmy Rossum, Patrick Wilson, Gerard Butler, where like a young soprano becomes the obsession of a disfigured and murderous musical genius who lives beneath a Paris opera house. And Phantom of the Opera, which is of course based on a musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber, It's a really decent one. Amy Rosen, that girl could sing, by the way. Like, if you want to hear how great she is, go watch her music stuff. I adore Amy Rosen. Obviously, Fiona Gallagher on Shameless, she's more known for, but she's done other stuff here and there too. Dragon Ball Evolution. But yeah, Phantom of the Opera was a really decent one, to say the least. So yeah, not a bad one there. All right. Also turning 20 is Ocean's 12. The follow up to Ocean's 11, and not a bad follow up here. Of course, you had Brad Pitt, George Clooney returning, Andy Garcia also appeared in this, playing like the casino owner Tony Bendick, who demands like the ocean returns the money that they stole and all. It's a lot of fun. It's a really fun sequel. Bernie Mac was great in this. Don Cheadle, of course. That's 5, 6. Yeah, 3 years after, we will also get Ocean's 13. Obviously, we had Ocean's 8, which is the female one. There is talks about another Ocean's movie with the director of Conclave doing that, so we'll see if that's ever gonna actually go off the ground. But Ocean's 12 is a really decent follow-up, to say the least. All right, also turning 20 is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Just like how I say Inherent Vice is Paul Thomas Anderson's like underrated film, this is actually probably Wes Anderson's underrated flick. It stars Bill Murray as Steve Zissou, an eccentric ocean photographer who sets out to exact revenge on a shark that ate his partner. And you also had, like, obviously Wes Anderson collaborators, Jeff Goldblum, Owen Wilson, William Dafoe, Kate Blanchett, Angelica Houston. Like, yeah, loads of people that, pretty much a lot of people that Wes Anderson has worked with are in this. And Life Aquatic sees that again, it's not like as good as, let's say, Ten Commandments or anything like that. But it's actually a pretty decent film worth giving a go. Like the chemistry between Bill Murray and Owen Wilson's pretty decent. It is a really entertaining one worth giving a go. All right, number 30 Years is Disclosure, which is, of course, the erotic thriller directed by Rain Man director Barry Levinson, starring Michael Douglas, Demi Moore, based on a novel by Michael Crichton, who gave us the novels for Jurassic Park. Disclosure is a really interesting erotic film. I mean, Michael Douglas was always like the king when it came to these type of erotic stuff. You know, he did, of course, Fair Attraction, Basic Instinct, and he also did this. It's not as good as those, obviously, but Disclosure is an interesting little film worth giving a go. If you guys don't, you also have like Donald Sutherland was also in this, Dennis Miller. So yeah, it has some, let's say, risque stuff in this. So yeah, it's definitely, the chemistry between Douglas and Moore is very interesting. So yeah. Anyway, also turning 30, we of course got Drop Zone. Speaking of Wesley Snipes, by the way, directed by John Badham, starring Gary Busey, Michael Jeter, the aforementioned Wesley Snipes. It's where a U.S. Marshal has to break a drug smuggling gang as he takes to the skies, and it's actually not like it's not a great film, but it's a pretty entertaining one. Wesley Snipes he's always been great when it comes to action. So yeah, he was pretty decent in this. Passenger 57 is a really fun Snipes movie too, by the way. But yeah, not a bad little film here. All right, films turning 40 this week. Okay, not the recent one, but the original, and that is David Fincher's version of Dune. Obviously, Dune's very more popular now because of Denis Villeneuve's Dunes and everything. But before Denis Villeneuve gave us Dune, uh, there was David Fincher's Dune. Based on the novel by Frank Herbert. This time around he had Couch McLaughlin in this, of course, playing Parstrays. You had Brad Dourif, aka Chucky, was in this. Patrick Stewart, Sting, Max von Sydow. I mean, I still probably think Denis Villeneuve's Dune is much better, but the original 1984 film, as I say, still holds up. It is a really fun, like 80s style sci-fi film. The cast of characters are pretty cool. The scenery is interesting, so definitely give the original Dune if you guys haven't seen that. All right, also turning 40 is Starman, directed by John Carpenter, who gave us Halloween, and it tells the story of a of this alien who has come to Earth and clone of a human body, portrayed by Jeff Bridges. In response, of course, in response to the invitation found on the gold phonograph record and starred on the Voyager to globe space globe here. And of course, you had like Jeff Bridges, Karen Allen, who you might know from Indiana Jones fame. Starman is a really decent one. Like, it's not my favorite John Carpenter film. Like, obviously, Halloween will always be on that list, but Starman is a really interesting film, to say the least. Also turning 40 is The Connor Club, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Richard Gere, Gregory Hines, Nicolas Cage, and it's of course about the Harlem Jazz Club in the 1930s, and it's a really decent one. Francis Ford Coppola, who gave us like The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, did a pretty good job directing this. The music is pretty interesting. I guess you could say it was like the La La Land of the 1980s, really. So, not a bad one to say the least. There's also Runaway, which is actually directed by the aforementioned Michael Crichton, who of course wrote the book Jurassic Park, which obviously got turned into a feature. Now, this saw the likes of Tom Selleck, Gene Simmons, Christy Alley, Cynthia Rose, where like Tom Selleck portrays a police officer assigned to track down dangerous robots, with Gene Simmons as a scientist who hopes to profit from manipulation of robots. And it's really forgettable. Not really, not really anything you should go by. So yeah, Gene Simmons actually acted before. I bet a lot of people don't know that. But that's pretty much it there. Let me lead you guys. Which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, the 10-year one is going to go to Inherent Vice. The 20-year one is actually going to go to Family Opera. The 30-year one is going to go to Discolscure, and the 40-year one is going to go to Dune. Anyway, drop comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. This is Serious